So I am on my way to do something that's probably a little bit stupid, verging on dangerous. I will explain everything in a second. Welcome back to the What Life. Let's roll. So this isn't something I'd really recommend that is for everyone, but today's ride is gonna take us down a dual carriageway. Yes, guys, I know that this is not sensible, I know it's not smart, but it is part of a bigger picture. If you ever pop down to VeloLife on Warren Row, which is just outside Henley, you might notice that there is a scoreboard with some times. And that is something that relates to the VeloLife Challenge. And the VeloLife Challenge is a loop that is 10.7 miles. And it basically takes in the A404 dual carriageway, which connects up the M4 to the M40 by virtue of going past Marlow. It's pretty dangerous. I have to say, I think it's pretty silly, but I'll take you through the course and how it goes as we get into it today. Next stop, guys, VeloLife on Warren Row, and we're gonna see how fast we can do the VeloLife Challenge. And then, guys, I'm gonna see whether I can ask them to change it so it's a bit more accommodating for everyday cyclists. See you in a second. So we are obviously at VeloLife, which is on Warren Row, just outside of Henley. And this is the VeloLife Challenge. I'm in a bit of two minds about this one because, quite frankly, guys, it's a little bit crazy and I'm probably going to say it's quite dangerous. So much so that in the 6 or 7 years that it's been running, I think there's only been about 135 people that have actually done it. And we are in June now, and there's only been one person that's tried to do it this year, albeit he has done it twice, and that's according to Strava. Let me break down some stats for you before I tell you why I think it's so dangerous. So the VeloLife Challenge Loop, which is on Strava, you can look it up as a segment, is 10.73 miles long, so 16 and a half, maybe 17k, 231 feet, so 75, 80 meters vertical. It starts off at the cafe from a standing start, no aero suits. If you're wearing an aero suit, then you get an asterisk next to your name. No TT bikes, asterisk next to your name, I think. So it's road bikes, road kit, and we are dressed for the occasion today. So the route itself starts outside the cafe, standing start, and you go down the country road. Once you get down the country road, you then turn on to an A road, which is a quite fast single A road. Now this is where it gets a bit nuts, and I'm going to go out and say it's probably a bit dangerous, and I'm actually going to try and encourage them to change the route just slightly. Obviously, you know, they can keep it however they want. It's just my personal opinion. Why is it dangerous, guys? It's because you hook a left and you go down a dual carriageway, a fast dual carriageway. It connects the M4 all the way, and it connects all the way up to High Wycombe, which is the M40. So you're riding along that, and cars can be going up to 60 miles an hour as you are going along. And obviously on a dual carriageway, you are way more likely to encounter cars doing 60 miles an hour. At this point, I will say that you are, in English law, allowed to drive or cycle your bike on a dual carriageway. I just don't personally think it's a very good idea. A little bit like making toast in the bath. I mean, if something does go wrong, people are going to look at you and be like, was that really necessary? So I'm in kind of two minds about it. I think it's a little bit unnecessarily dangerous. Yes, it might add something to the challenge. I just don't think... I can't in good conscience encourage people to come and do it now that I've had a closer look at the loop. Even though you're not on the dual carriageway for a huge amount of time, I did check it out on Google Earth, and this is what I saw. There isn't a huge amount of hard shoulder, and some of the hard shoulder is obviously just kind of covered in glass and just general crud from the motorway. Now, this being said, I want to come into this really well prepared. So what I have done is I've got myself a radar light, and at this point I will say that IGP Sport have sent me a radar light. They asked me to test it, and I actually, thought this is probably the best thing that I could use the radar light for. Ultimately, it warns me by virtue of giving me a signal on my bike computer when cars are approaching from behind. So, I will kind of confess that in my early cycling years, I found myself on a dual carriageway once or twice, just through those kind of like long navigational days where you don't really know where you're going, and a GPS will just navigate you somewhere. I'm pretty sure when I was cycling down to Carlisle once to do London to Paris, we were, cycling for about 40 minutes on a hard shoulder of a dual carriageway, because that's what we were told to do. And I think it was probably a registered bike lane at the time, but I wouldn't recommend ever doing that. It was not fun. And being prepared, at least I don't have to kind of worry about checking my shoulder so much. I should be able to see when cars are approaching fast from behind me and move over accordingly. The best thing I can do is be prepared and be in a good position to react to traffic coming through. I mean, the best thing I can do is probably not do it, if I'm completely honest with you, but we're going to give it a crack. So let's talk times, guys. The quickest time is about 24.5 minutes. A couple of the guys from my cycle club who I've spoken about it to, Nick and Tom, a couple of the strong riders from the Fast group, have done it in 26. I think they got exactly the same time to the second, but there is 1 second difference on their Strava files. You have to do this individually. So one person will go, you have to wait a few minutes, then the next person will go. But they did manage to get, weirdly, incredibly close times. Even the illustrious Mr. Ollie Bridgewood from GCN fame has given this a crack, and his Strava file suggests that he has more in him. So, naughty Mr. Ollie Bridgewood. This is not a ride for the masses, but kudos to you. I think he's got a 26:50 or something like that. Anyway, so these are pretty good times for that 10-mile thing. A little bit of climbing, not too much. But today I'm hoping if I can get anything close to like 32, 33 minutes, I'm just not kind of overly fussed. I just want to come back here with the rubber side down. That's my main goal. But I thought I'd check it out. I thought I'd take you guys along for the journey and show you what this little challenge is like for yourself, and then you can see whether you want to give it a crack. Actually, kind of really glad I have this, having said that, and as mentioned, kindly provided by IGP Sport for me to kind of test out, so it was kind of gifted to me. Please don't shout at me. I will share my thoughts on it afterwards. It's quite windy today, not making excuses. I know I'm just trying to fill you guys in on kind of I'm just trying to fill you guys in on the environment that I'm dealing with. And lastly, this is an excuse. I did a 110k 6,000 meter ultra marathon run in Tenerife up a volcano on Saturday, Sunday of the weekend, and it's now Thursday. So I wouldn't say I'm in kind of fighting spirits when it comes to top end performance. Nonetheless, it's going to be fun, and I am looking forward to it. Once again, Ollie Bridgewood, come on, boy, you should know better. I guess all we have to do now is get ready and go for it. Freshly waxed chain, half a bottle of water, one gel, paraphernalia. I am going to take tubes and stuff because I don't want to get stuck somewhere without any of that. Ready to go. I am going to try and hold for 35 minutes around about 300 watts. I'd love to promise you more. I don't want to overestimate what I can do early on. So 300 odd watts out here. It is like I said, it is quite windy, so we'll go down the A4 towards Maidenhead with a tailwind. I think by the time we come back round, it will be a headwind. It's go time. settle in, sit down, relax. I'm going to give you a quick talk through of 3 or 4 minutes of the ride. And I'm only really doing this because we go down a damn dual carriageway and I want to show you exactly what it was like. This is the stage where we actually hit the first A road, and it's a pretty fast A road, but it is only a single carriageway and there is a massive tailwind. Guys, it did not take me long to realize that my legs were in tatters after running 110k ultramarathon up a volcano. We peaked out at 3,500 meters. Anyway, this is the point where we're just about to jump onto a dual carriageway. That bus was in no way kind of going to come down the dual carriageway. That was taking a right round the roundabout. Things started to get very real here. I'm suddenly looking at loads of cars on the dual carriageway. There is no room for me to ride off to the left. I have to stay in this lane for now anyway, and I'm suddenly realizing I've got to get over across that white line as soon as possible. I do have my radar light on and it is like flashing up the whole time once I manage to get into the hard shoulder, but I'll be honest with you guys, I'm so concerned about getting my tyre in the right place, because you will see in a second just how horrible this experience is. These cars are flying past. I think the national speed limit on a dual carriageway is 70 miles an hour. That lorry was nice enough to give me a bit of room, dodge a couple of bits of wood, which is just horrible. You hit that, something goes wrong, and you can quite easily spill out into the road, which would not be ideal. I might refer to this as 2 feet of hard shoulder. Guys, I think it's probably less than that, about 1.5 feet, and then obviously you get a lot of crud all over the place. It was not an entirely kind of pleasurable experience. It does widen up a tiny bit here, and then you can see me move over just a little bit because I need a bit of breathing room, but then I have to get back over and we go again. Kind of the best thing is that it doesn't actually last that long, and you can kind of see that once we get to the end, I have to just shoulder check, move back over into the exit lane so I can get my way off the dual carriageway. This was quite fun because these 2 little cars had a little toot-toot as we went past. But guys, I think the biggest thing that I kind of learned from this, or kind of from this moment, was quite simply that I was just full of relief to not be cycling down a dual carriageway anymore. The radar light was great, but honestly, it was just kind of flashing because there were so many cars passing. So I don't really know. I just knew that basically there was no point kind of paying attention to the radar light whilst I was on the dual carriageway. But what I did find was that it was incredibly useful on these fast A roads. And even though I'm not going particularly quickly on that little downhill section, I did find that the radar light would always kind of let me know when a car was coming up behind me. So it was one of those things that actually gave me a lot of comfort, but not so much on the dual carriageway, because that was just kind of pain, agony, surprise, kind of tons of negative feelings. But this is the hill that's kind of 3/4 of the way round, and I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not too far off getting to that kind of 24-minute mark where the fast guys have finished. Final turn to turn off from heading down into Henley, down onto Warren Row. My high-speed corners are not my speciality at the moment, something I need to dial in, so I want to go crit racing soon. But I do kind of realize that we are back on a nice country B road, and at some stage I have to start trying to put the watts down, knowing that we are getting closer and closer to the end. I'm not going to ruin my time for you guys or tell you what it is right now. You will find out in a second. But I did kind of realize that if I put a bit more watts down, I'd have half a chance of getting kind of something that was okay. Although every time I try to put the watts down, you can just see my legs are just not reacting today. I think just the fact that they'd run for 24.5 hours non-stop on the weekend just put me to absolute misery. Here we go though, back to VeloLife to finish the loop. That was really hard. Really hard. But quite good fun. So we survived, first and foremost, and I did a 29:40 by all accounts. That's kind of what I stopped my watch at, which puts me well below the top. We've got the boys from the fight night up here, Tom and Nick, who have exactly the same time, 25:57. We have Mr. Ollie Bridgewood from GCN fame coming in at 26 minutes exactly. I think his Strava farm might say otherwise. And then I am all the way down here, maybe just above Brendan Drummond and below James Graham. So in there. In a second, I'm going to suggest a cheeky little change to this, which should make it a little bit more accessible to a wider kind of group of cyclists and make it a little bit more friendly. Give me a second, I'm going to grab a coffee and then talk you through it. That's the Velo Challenge done for me. Tick. Right, so let me talk you through it. How did that go? First and foremost, the legs were absolutely struggling today. That's the first thing I'm going to point out. No surprise there, but nonetheless, I actually really enjoyed it. Nice tailwind kicking out from the cafe. As soon as we hit the A4, you hook a left. Again, bit of a tailwind, and it's downhill. Like the first quarter of this ride is all downhill, which makes it incredibly fun and fast, I will say. But you do pay for that when you come back uphill and then obviously into the wind doing the last quarter. Let's get the elephant in the room out the way, the dual carriageway and having a radar light. The radar light was absolutely bang on fantastic. Now I haven't actually read the instructions on it, as most classic cyclists wouldn't do. Just whack it on your bike, connect it up, off you go, and you'll figure it out as you get on with it, which was fine. What I have realized is the faster a car approaches, the line on the left-hand screen which shows you where the car is will turn red, and it means that a car is approaching very quickly. If it's orange, it's kind of medium, and then green, it's kind of slowly approaching. And then sometimes if a car is just sat behind you, because it's a radar signal, it kind of doesn't show the car at all because it's not coming closer or further away from you. So it's kind of a really good thing for like speed differential. Obviously, the problem on the dual carriageway was two things. Firstly, I was trying to stay in that hard shoulder because I suddenly realized that this is like incredibly dangerous, a little bit stupid. And if the safest place is to not be anywhere near one of the roads, one of the lanes for the dual carriageway. I couldn't take my eyes off of the 2 feet of tarmac in front of me because, as you'll see on the video, there's just bits and pieces everywhere, and I was just trying to make sure that my wheel line was correct. I wasn't going to hit anything. Having a problem there would have been not ideal, put it that way. So what I was getting was, as the cars were coming flying past, just the little red kind of warning light on the left of the screen again and again. But ultimately, I think the cars were just approaching way too quickly to kind of really be able to react or pay too much attention to that, given how much I was trying to pay attention to where my wheel was along the dual carriageway. But I'll also say it didn't last that long. It was kind of over before I really realized it. You kind of, probably one of the worst bits is dropping down on the on-ramp, because you're suddenly thinking to yourself, oh my God, am I actually going to do this? But, you can stick it out. My little kind of amendment to this is the easiest thing to do is actually go straight over that roundabout, hook a left, and that kind of lane is dead straight. It's a single lane A road and kind of joins up with the other road on the off-ramp. So it really doesn't really change the challenge too much, other than make it kind of incredibly more safer, kind of more accessible to a kind of wider cycling audience. As I said, in the 6 or 7 years that this challenge has been running, only 131, now 132, thank you, people have actually managed to do it. And I probably would hazard that it's heavily male orientated as well. I'll try and check that stat and throw it on the screen if I can. Once you're off the dual carriageway, though, kind of you can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief, join the roundabout. As you might have seen in the video, there was like a cheeky Audi TT coming around the roundabout. The guy in front of me just kind of cut in front of him. He's a little toot on the horn, but it didn't stop me nonetheless. This was the bit when the kind of riding starts getting a little bit harder, because it starts leaning into like the rolling hills and kind of makes it a little bit tougher. I didn't have the legs today, no surprise there, but still I was kind of just safe in the knowledge that I'm on a nice kind of cruisy A road, and from here it's just a kick on to the finish. I did realize on the clock kind of it registered for me when I was getting to that kind of 24 minutes mark, when the fastest guy has finished, and 25, 26 when my mates have finished, Ollie Bridgewood has finished, Tom and Nick have finished, and then it was ticking away. And I realized, kind of coming back onto Warren Row, that was probably, if I put or kept my effort high, I was going to get it under 30 minutes. So that's basically what I was aiming to do, and then I just kicked on. So all in all, like a really fun little challenge. It's really hard work, especially just like having to like mentally concentrate in certain parts, the obvious part. But once you get onto Warren Row, it's a nice cruisy kind of country lane, and you can kind of just do what you can to get it back to VeloLife. Right, the last thing we're going to chat is the bike. I absolutely am falling in love more and more with the Windspace. The D67 kind of hyper wheels. It's just really working for me at the moment. I've had to keep kind of tightening up the press fit bottom bracket, that kind of thread, which is kind of like, it was running like an absolute dream today. But I think the more pressure I'm putting through it, I think I just need to service the whole bottom bracket, maybe just like start again, take it out, rethread it, get rid of any of the dirt and the grime, and then kind of rethread it together and whack the drivetrain back on, just to try and make sure that it's super quiet. Today was great, fantastic, but I just worry that if I keep putting these kind of like high power efforts through it, that's when it's struggling. And I got a feeling like it's like a tolerance thing on these kind of thread together or these kind of press fit bottom brackets that are just kind of creating like a little bit of noise every now and again. And I just want that dead, smooth, silent cycling experience, because that is basically the dream. Right, we're going to leave that one there, guys. I think they are going to relaunch the VeloLife Challenge, which I think they 100% should do. I just maybe like give it some thought as to whether or not you include the A404 dual carriageway in it, because I think it's almost too easy to miss it out and make it a way more accessible and ultimately like enjoyable experience, and it will get more people to do it. In some ways, it kind of feels like one of those things where some mates might have started it, and it was a great idea for them to do it, but if you're going to kind of open it up to a wider audience, I think you kind of just got to take a little bit more of a sensible approach, because it can still be incredibly quick. It doesn't change. I don't think it will really change the speed at which you can do it. It might add maybe 60 seconds on to most people's times, but the experience I think will be exactly the same, and almost it makes it more fluid and more flowy, because the corners that you actually end up taking are just kind of easier and you've got more visibility. That's it there, guys. That's my kind of on tired legs VeloLife Challenge. Probably crazy, slightly stupid, a little bit dangerous ride for the day. And I'm going to take it nice and easy and cruise on home. I will see you guys on another one soon.